I would say it's probably still more on automation and AI and how that's going to really be influenced in our space.
I think at that point we're going to be sharing best practices as to how do we leverage now what we know and using predictive analytics to negotiate better, right? So if we can really get a robot to negotiate for me, can that really happen, right?
In 3 years' time, we will still be talking about artificial intelligence. We'll be talking about the application of it along with machine learning and natural language processing. We'll be talking about technologies like blockchain, like I talked about before. All of these technologies are very innovative.
I think in 3 years' time, we'll talk about how different procurement organizations look than they did today. And kinds of things that they're focused on are much higher impact and how much they've automated the day-to-day tasks inside of their organizations.
I think there will be a huge focus around automation, around innovation, and how procurement teams are focused on strategy and no longer known as PO pushers or transactional.
I think that the number one issue will be around talent. I think the number two issue will be around data. And I think the number three issue will be how we consume that data.
Artificial intelligence, maybe supply chain disruption around international relations. You know, I'm pretty sure those things will still be hanging around. How to deal with a changing workforce, because that's happening faster than ever. You know, how to deal with information and getting control of these very large organizations and try and get a picture where you can be comfortable in those things.
What does blockchain utilization look like in 3 years' time? Today it's very, very immature. In 3 years it could be a very different thing. What does AI look like? Again, today it exists, but it's fairly immature. In 3 years it could be a very different thing. So I think we're seeing some technologies that will be playing a much bigger role, but what I would really like to see is what are the new technologies that we're not talking about today. That's what I'd like to see in 3 years.
I think I'd like to see more on the people management side, because I think that this function can do an awful lot with leading people to drive change and results in organizations. So I think that there'll probably be a focus on that as well.
In 3 years' time, I hope that we're talking about the success stories of how we're helping the world around us. Maybe a success story around how we're eliminating modern slavery from our supply chain. Other success stories about how we've built partnerships with our suppliers to build our overall capability. And maybe how we're reducing risk as an organization in our supply chain.
I think 3 years from now, procurement is going to be at the peak and at the highest seat of strategy with the organizations, right? So CFOs, CEOs are going to be looking at procurement for strategy, not for support.